morning, everybody. We're back once again at Web Summit. Before we get started with the conversation right here, I just want to do a little test. Raise your hands if you own an NFT. Okay, we got a good number of people there. That's very good. Raise your hands if you're happy with the value of your NFT. Excellent. So let's get into this. What do you want to start with? I'm gonna let my amazing experts here introduce themselves a little bit. So Sarah Jeannie, Sarah? It's okay if I call you Sarah.
Either one is good.
Perfect. So Sarah, tell us a little bit about what you're doing with Alien Worlds, but more importantly, tell us why the future of NFTs and where we're going from here with NFTs is important to you.
Yeah, so Sarah McKenna, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Dakoko. We are the creators of Alien Worlds, which is the most played blockchain game in the world. Our NFT collection is also the most held NFT collection in the world. So more wallets hold Alien Worlds NFTs than any other. And I think what our story and the sort of wide distribution of our NFTs and the large player base speaks to is how significant utility is, of course, within the whole of crypto, but also within the NFT, vertical. Utility NFTs that you can use to do something with, that get read by smart contracts, that are little pieces of computing, are so much more resilient than NFTs that have value mainly because of what's on the face of them.
Excellent, thank you. And Brad, is it okay if I call you Brad?
Sure.
I'm shortening everyone's names today. So Brad, tell us a little bit about what you're doing, but also again, why this is an important topic for you.
Sure, so I'm Brad. I'm a co-founder at Unstoppable Domains. We build Web3 domain names. They're digital identity for consumers on the internet. NFTs is kind of a funny category. It's basically everything that's not money. But I think blockchains are extremely good at being digital asset registries, being a platform where you can have you can launch assets that you own and control completely. And most things in the world are not money. Most digital things in the world will not be money. And so I think NFTs is probably the largest category of assets on the blockchain. And it's hard to say one thing about it because they're a million different things.
Excellent, thank you. I'm always telling, and last year on the crypto stage, I had the opportunity to tell everyone that is in blockchain to stop talking about blockchain. Because, when we saw Uber first come out, it's not like they ran up to everybody and said, hey, look at our latest Kotlin technology project, or look at our, you don't run up to somebody and say, hey, look at my latest JavaScript project. You say, here's my website. And it's about utility, right? So what is it about NFTs that makes them particularly useful from a utility standpoint, as opposed to all of the speculation and the result of speculation that we see in blockchain, with crypto, with NFTs, this massive hype up, make money, dump. We see all of this stuff, all the shitcoins and everything else, and they're all just tanked off, 8 hours after they launch. Why are NFTs particularly useful from a utility standpoint? Sarah, maybe you could take that.
Yeah, so NFTs are non-fungible tokens, so they can be created in series of unique items, or completely unique items. So you could have one single unique NFT, or you could have a series of 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 NFTs that are all within the same series. That's really useful for lots of things. In gaming, we use them to represent game pieces or things that you use to play the game. So in Alien Worlds, you have land, which is an NFT, and you can mine on that land using various shovels and excavators and mining equipment. You can fight with other people in Alien Worlds, and for that you need various weapons NFTs, and you need characters that will do the fighting. So each of those sets of attributes can be encoded within an NFT. So you can have an NFT that represents a certain type of power along one dimension and another type of power or attribute along another dimension. So there's numerous attributes that you can encode into the NFT. Some of those are immutable, so they can never change after the NFT has been minted, but some of them are mutable. Some of those attributes can change in response to the things that the NFT has done, or the smart contracts that it's interacted with. So imagine you have an avatar NFT that's representing your persona within a game, and then your avatar gets injured in battle. Well, one of its mutable attributes might be decreased because of the status of it being injured. And then maybe your NFT, your avatar NFT goes to a hospital, which might be a smart contract that it interacts with. Maybe it has to pay some money to get treatment, or it has to do something in order to get treatment at that hospital. And then that NFT might go back up to its full attribute again. So NFTs are little pieces of computing power, and they can contain all of these different attributes, some of which never change, which is a valuable thing for it never to change, but some of which could change in response to certain actions. And of course, it's not so revolutionary to be able to encode attributes associated with a certain thing in computing. But what is interesting is that those are tokens, NFTs are tokens running on blockchains. And so for sure that they belong to the account that's holding them, and they can also be transacted, right? I can send that NFT from one account to another, and then that ownership transfers, and all of that's happening on a decentralized, public, permissionless blockchain in many cases. So it's that quality of decentralization of the blockchain that the token is running on that makes that NFT valuable.
Excellent. I actually think a lot of people's NFTs went to hospital, or at least it means something in alien worlds, right? So, Brad, talk to us about the utility side of NFTs.
Well, I think there's, people oftentimes say that speculation is, they talk about speculation as if it's a problem, and I would say it might be one of the core purposes of, and if you have an asset issuance platform, where is it going to go most likely, especially when gas fees on blockchains are high? It's probably going to go to higher value assets. And then even if there are millions or billions of other types of assets that are not really meant to be speculated on, you're probably not going to hear about those. There's millions of NFT event passes that have been minted. Some of you probably have one. No one talks about them. And the reason why is because you can't speculate on them particularly. So I think that the speculation is a feature and not a bug, because these are asset issuance platforms. And there's a lot of, it's very hard to answer what is the utility of NFTs. Like, NFTs is a term that means everything that's not money. So I could list 20 different types of NFTs with all different types of utility, but I think that just in general, they're commodities, and there's lots of different types of commodities: collectibles, domain names, in-game assets, representations of real-world assets. There's just so many different categories, but for the most part, they're things. The things that people are focused on are things that can and will hold value, and I think that's to be expected.
Before we get into where we're going next with NFTs, I mean, maybe you could give some examples, not your own. Obviously, you're both doing incredibly successfully well, but what have you seen out there that has been a great example of NFTs in action from a utility standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I think many of the gaming projects have NFTs that are really interesting. So, that might represent land, and that you then have to, that is positioned spatially on a map, and you look for adjacency and other features. I mean, I think that some of the, meme token NFTs and so on are not, I would sort of agree to some extent, Bradley, with what you're saying, in the sense that, we have seen community emerge from some of those projects. I think that the asset bubble or the price volatility makes it really hard to then build an application on top of that. But yeah, I think that the gaming space has NFTs that are used in lots of really interesting ways. Of course, then we also have sports NFTs that represent players on teams, and where you can then curate various sporting teams, and those are more speaking to the collectible value of NFTs, but with reference to real-world items.
How about you, Brett?
I think one of my favorite things that is not what I'm actually working on would be art, digital art. And when I say art, I don't mean monkey pictures. I don't actually put that quite in the same category as art. I think that's more like card collectibles. There's a lot of really, really, I would say very innovative, almost revolutionary digital art. And I think it's attracting a slightly different community than a lot of the hardcore crypto folks. Like what I saw, especially when it started in, I think it was in maybe 2020 when it started with Nifty Gateway really pushing a lot of these art projects. Beeple was, of course, probably the biggest that a lot of people know, but there's hundreds or thousands of others. And there are artists who have been artists for 15 years, been painters and et cetera, and they switched to this new medium. And it looks different creatively, so it has different properties from a creative perspective, and then it behaves differently from an asset perspective because it's easier to store and easier to move around. You're not lugging around this giant piece of art. It's hyper liquid. So I think digital art is a category that I think the crypto folks don't probably focus on that much, but it's probably one of the... When I talk to artists who don't care at all about blockchains, they still say digital art on a blockchain is awesome and makes a ton of sense. I don't hear that very often in equivalent Web 2 industries across a lot of these other categories. Right. So I think it's found product market fit outside of the crypto community in a way that a lot of these other areas haven't yet. I'm hopeful they will, but being honest, I don't think that they mostly have outside of crypto.
Yeah, I mean, I actually agree with that completely. I mean, as well as Data Economy and Arctic Startup, where I'm editor-at-large at both, my life partner, Ksenia Stark, who's a leader in Web3, we're building Confusion and Joy to help those artists, because artists, they don't know really generally how to make money, and also it's incredibly difficult sometimes for people to understand blockchain, NFTs, etc. I mean, it's getting easier, but with some solutions, you still need a PhD just to open up a wallet. So we're helping those artists to get access to brands and make money that way. I mean, we're talking about where we go with NFTs and with blockchain in general. I think there's a bit of a misnomer. I think a lot of the analysts, they were looking at the numbers on OpenSea and other platforms, and then when everything tanked, they're still just looking at those platforms. They were missing the fact that there was more volume going through Reddit on NFTs than any official NFT platform. The community finds a way, right? You build the community, it finds a way. The community decides what happens next. But what do you think is going to happen next in terms of NFTs? Where do we go from here with NFTs? Is it going to be more linked to reality, like we've got real estate, we've got houses being sold directly on using NFT technology? You don't necessarily know, but you shouldn't know necessarily. Like I said, you don't need to know the technology. Or what else is happening that is exciting, and where are NFTs going from here in terms of that?
Yeah, the tokenization of real-world assets like real estate, I think it will probably be a little bit slower. I personally don't see necessarily the problem that NFTs are solving in some of those applications where they're being tried. We also haven't seen enough track record yet of, for example, legal contracts being represented through NFTs to really know if that will end up being enforceable, on the other side of the contract. So I actually think that it's where it's like native blockchain applications are the best, are where the most traction and momentum is happening, as opposed to tokenizing real-world assets on chain, where the friction might not make it worth it. So, for example, I mean, in gaming, we're looking at making NFTs interoperable between games. That's really the promise of why. So, if you think of, I hold an NFT in my wallet. Why is that meaningful? It's because I own that NFT in my wallet. It's not actually associated with a particular application. Unlike when you go onto a social media platform and you log in, you're definitely in that platform from the beginning of your experience until the time you log out. Whereas when I have assets in a wallet, those are mine, and I can take them to any application that will receive them, where they will have meaning. And that's where the interoperability story is important. It's so that these assets can then actually have utility. So, for example, an Alien Worlds NFT isn't just playable within Alien Worlds, but in time could be used in another game environment. There's a lot of technical problems that we need to solve, and various of the blockchain games are coming together to do that. For example, in OMA 3, the Open Metaverse Alliance for Web3, which in fact we're both members of. Because really that's the promise of these open environments, and that's why you would build on a blockchain in the first place, is so that your assets are relatively agnostic as to their eventual end application.
Awesome. Yeah. Give me your viewpoint on that, Brad.
Well, I think I think NFTs are being used right now already as, to some extent, like opening up a communication channel. And I know that Web3 domains get used this way. I think a lot of what I'm hearing from companies that are trying to get into the space is something around airdrops for the purposes of being able to have this new type of connection with their customers. And I think that's one of the reasons why Starbucks was trying to do an NFT program. So I think that NFTs for loyalty is probably one big untapped area. And brands love this because, like they have your email address, but like who reads their email anymore? And so being able to communicate directly with your wallet is just another way for them to, for brands and end users to connect. I'm talking about new stuff, stuff that, all the stuff that already exists in NFTs, we're obviously going to have more of that. But new stuff, I think that's one area of new stuff. I do generally agree that I think that off-chain to on-chain is a little bit overhyped. I think things that are unregulated, like shoes, I think that has a potential. I think things like real estate, like not a chance. Like that makes no sense. Like the thing that has to happen to transfer real estate is you need a lawyer to sign some documents, and then you need the county courthouse to update those documents. Mm-hmm. That has literally nothing to do with the blockchain or NFTs. So if someone tells you that they can sell you a house with an NFT, I would ask your lawyer, and the lawyer's going to say, heck no, that's not what's happening. You're going to be talking to me. So anyway.
Awesome. I'm going to make a prediction that it will eventually happen, because when e-signatures came out, they were not legal, and you still had to get signature, and you still had to even fax it. Do you remember those days? Maybe one day it will happen, but it's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you so much, Brad, for joining me on stage. I've been Stuart Rogers of Data Economy, Arctic Startup, and Confusion and Joy. These people have been incredible. Thank you so much. Please give them a massive round of applause.